Hey guys, Reaper here, and in today's video I'm going to be taking the butchers at Blood and Gold Caribbean. So just for those of you who aren't aware, taking the butchers, it's an English phrase basically meaning to take a quick look at something or quickly assess something for its value. So the idea of these videos, it's a series now I do of these, is to be kind of halfway between a first impressions and a review, so predominantly a first impressions. So say for example, you go on the Steam store, so you're just browsing through looking for a new game, or maybe there's a Steam sale. So there's a lot of games that are on sale, reduced price, and you're kind of unfamiliar with, so you want a bit more guidance. You think, I'll tell you what, that game's caught my eye, but I want a bit more sort of information before I drop any money. Or say a friend recommends you a game, says, oh, have you heard of this? I think I really like this, I think it's your thing, maybe you can play with us. You think, alright, I'll give it a look, but I want to see a bit more before I drop any money. These are kind of the videos for you. So basically the idea is you start watching the video, and hopefully by the end I've told you everything you need to know to make a fully informed decision about whether or not you're going to get that game. So start watching the video, I'll run through gameplay mechanics and actually seeing how the gameplay looks when you're playing it. Performance issues, anything you need to know about like that. Bug fixes, glitches like that are going to affect the gameplay. If there's a free-to-play model, this one doesn't have one. But just anything you'd need to know that I think you should be aware of before you drop your money. So with that out of the way, Blood and Gold Caribbean, you'd be forgiven for thinking this is a Mount and Blade warband mod. Technically it's not. It's not a DLC or a mod, nor do you actually require Mount and Blade Warband or Mount and Blade to play it. It is technically a standalone game that uses the Mount and Blade engine to do everything. So basically it's got the exact same combat system, same sort of overworld map, same graphics, almost exactly the same sort of character sort of creation and progression system. So you could think of it essentially as a pirate mod for Mount and Blade Warband. But it is technically a standalone game. You don't get it for free, or if you have Mount and Blade or Warband, it is a separate game. You don't need Warband to play it, but either way you're going to have to drop money to get it. You can't get it free as a mod. So if you're not unfamiliar with the Mount and Blade series, basically this game is a kind of semi-sandbox, not particularly story driven, fairly open world, RPG, hack and slash combat pirate game. So a bit of naval combat, you can go on land as well and do some land battles as you could in the original Mount and Blade games, but this has got a pirate and kind of naval combat focus on it. So I'm just going to click start new game just to show you what the character progression system looks like. So again, anyone who's played Mount and Blade will be immediately familiar with this loading screen. The hints are, even the hint box is exactly the same. Just going to give it a sec to load. There we go. So again, select your gender, male or female. This doesn't have any bearing on your character, just choose what you look like. Difficulty level, you can go for an easy merchant as opposed to easy warrior, which allows you to kind of try and go for a more economic victory. I'm just going to click medium. I'm not actually going to use this character for demonstration. I'm just going to show you what it's like creating a new character, just to show you what the character creation screen looks like. So as with all the past Mount and Blade games and the mods, you've got the option of quitting without saving or being locked into your choice. So basically, if you go no quitting without saving, whatever decision you make, whatever combat you fight, whatever outcome happens, you are locked into that decision. So if you have a bad combat and you get captured, you lose all your ships, you lose all your guys, tough luck, you're stuck with it. You can't just reload your save. So it's like playing, say for example, XCOM, it's like playing the Iron Man mode. Everything that happens, you are stuck with. It saves at the end of every combat, the end of every encounter. Every decision you make, you are locked into. Or you can decide not to do that, as I normally do. You're entirely in liberty to do what you want with it. We can say, I want to be able to quit without saving. So you want to think, I'll tell you what, I'm going to go into this combat, I'm going to save just before I go into this combat. If it goes badly, I'll just reload my save. Or just, if you feel something happens to you you think was a bit bullshit, you can just reload your save. I'd just like to have the option of reloading. Again, I'm not going to use this character, I'm just showing you the sort of the details. So in your bottom left you've got your attributes, so you've got strength, which is kind of melee combat damage, and gives you kind of a higher threshold for these skills. So you can only put these skills beyond a certain threshold of one of these stats. Agility is kind of mounted stuff, sort of speed, combat, weapon spring speed. Intelligence affects a lot of these sort of more intelligence based skills here and gives you more stat points. And charisma is about how many sort of the morale and kind of the size of your party. So I'm just going to put these randomly, so this isn't going to be a practical necessarily good choice. So all your skills, again, if you're familiar with Mount and Blade, most of these are the same. You've basically got a few to account for the fact you've now got naval combat. So for example, you've got Fleet Master, you've got a naval combat skill, which is reloading the ship's cannons. Seafaring is ship speed and maneuverability. You've got battery command, which is sort of how effective your cannons can be. Then you've got a bunch of other skills. You can pick these as you like. So you start with 8 skill points plus 1 for every point of intelligence you've got. And you can sort of attribute these how you like. So you just mouse over them. In the top right, it's going to say what the base attribute is and what it's going to do for every point you put in it. On top of that, you've also got traits. So if you want to put a few points, you've got your 9 skill points in my case. So instead of putting them all into these sort of skill points here, I can click on traits. And you can pick some of these as well. So for example, once you've unlocked these, you can spend skill points to unlock these instead of increasing one of your skills. So for example, on my main character, I've got Journeyman Gunner here, which gives me level requirement 0, just need 2 points, and just makes you a bit better with certain types of naval combat. Quick Blade makes you a bit sort of attack speed with melee weapons. Sergeant makes you sort of train your troops a bit better. So it just gives you another little way that you didn't get in the original Mount and Blade games of kind of cherry picking your character a bit. So just making them gives you another sort of way of customizing exactly what sort of the way you want to play the game essentially. So you've got traits as well, and you've got weapon proficiencies. Basically, again, same as Mount and Blade, but you've now got firearms. And basically, the higher these points are, the better you're going to be with certain types of weapons. So again, I'm just going to assign these randomly so we can move on. I'm just going to randomly do these, blah 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 blah. Again, I wouldn't recommend you doing this if you made a character your own name. I'm just going to call him Blah because we're not going to be using him. I'm just going to show you the map with him. And I'm just going to click done. So you can cherry pick how your character looks like again. Again, Mount and Blade. Again, I'm going to be making a lot of references because this is essentially a Mount and Blade game. So you can change your skin colour, hair, age. You can change that around as well so you can make yourself look all wrinkly. You've got quite a few different sort of options. So you can change, if you really want to be pedantic, you can change your sort of character very specifically. I'm just going to use the default because I don't really need to look at my character anyway. Enter the Caribbean. So I'm just going to get rid of that initial message because I don't know what I'm doing. So basically this is what you start out. So you start with your one ship, which is your standard war brigantine, which is kind of just your starting ship. There's me, called Blah, and then I've got 10 musketeers and 5 French renegades. They're my combat troops. So this is my ship, so if I just zoom out, so moving around, easy as you like, click where you want to go, simple as you like. If you click on an enemy ship, or just a ship like that, if I click on them, I can try and fight them in combat. And enemies are sometimes going to go towards you, depending on your alignment with, say, a certain country. So if I'm British, maybe the French might want to attack me if we're at war. It kind of fluctuates and changes, but enemies are going to kind of may want to move towards you, or they may want to run away from you. But just sort of click around, and that's going to determine what direction you go in. Simple as you like. This is the map. One thing I will say from the off, well, I do like this little border design. It's quite cool, so it looks like a map on a ship. One thing I would say is the map does feel quite small in past to most Mount and Blade games. This ship, considering this is the entire map of the game, that's the left-hand edge, that's the right-hand edge. I'm slightly to the right of the middle. I've got the most basic ship. It doesn't take me that long to get to the edge of the map. I'm actually being chased by some Corsairs. I think I can outrun them, that's fine. I haven't got many crew. Anyway, you can get across the map pretty sharpish compared to even just the basic native Mount and Blade games or some of the mods. The maps are huge in those. In this, it's got the issue, obviously it's based on a real map. It's based on an interpretation of the actual Caribbean, so it's designed to look like the Caribbean islands. So I can forgive it that. The fact of the matter is, though, it was going to look like that. However, they could have scaled it up just to make the map bigger. The sea area is bigger. Obviously, in a pirate game, the water and the open seas and ship combat is going to be the main focus. Obviously, it's not going to have as much land content and land-focused combat as a regular Mount and Blade game. However, it does seem they could have just scaled the map up a bit bigger. Just make the islands bigger, make the sea area bigger so you can have bigger combats in sea, just more sort of stuff to traverse. It just seems weird why they made this map this small compared to some of the other Mount and Blade sort of mods, or even the base game that's out there. So a bit of a nitpick. Obviously, they've made it based on a Caribbean map. However, they could have scaled it up, make the islands bigger, make the sea area bigger. It just seems that they've unnecessarily limited themselves. It's not a huge criticism. It just feels some of these tiny islands as well. You go on them. This is basically some of the small ones are over here. These aren't land areas you can go and traverse on. These are just cities that you can interact with that just happen to be on bits of water. I mean, most of these islands have no land value whatsoever. There's so little you can do on these lands bar visiting the towns. They're almost pointless, most of these islands. You're not going to be able to fight any land combats on these. You're not going to be able to do anything other than go to the one city that's sometimes on them. The southern area is a bit better, and it sort of connects all the way around to the northern area here. But even some of these bigger ones, this one here, It's got a few towns on it, but there's just so little on it. There's like, for example, there's missions where you have to hunt sort of bandits and stuff and land in combat, but there's so little thing. There's so few things that spawn on these areas. It takes the equivalent of a few game hours. It takes, well, in real time, it takes me about 30 seconds, but between 30 seconds and a minute to traverse from one end of this island to the other, and there's probably going to be very little, if anything, on it. So it just seems they kind of handicap themselves a bit in that. Bit of a nitpick, maybe, but I don't know why they limited themselves like that. Anyway, so this is moving my ship around. I'm not going to go into combats yet, so I can go into port here. Currently, you start out with no particular affiliation, so you can safely dock at pretty much any port. However, if you gain alignment, so for example, I believe these yellow ones are the Spanish aligned ones. If I become aligned with the Spanish, I might then have difficulty going into the sort of English cities. It will be a hostile. You might be able to sneak in, but you can't, as a regular sort of thing, dock your ship there because it's going to be hostile territory. So you get the choice of what sort of alignment you want to go with. You can choose to go a pirate. You can be completely independent and not have any affiliation with anyone, but you start out basically neutral, and you can choose if and when, if you want to, who to kind of align yourself with. So I'm just going to dock just to show you what that's like. So that will show you the town screen. So now you saw that animation there was a little bit finicky. It kind of flicked back and forth between the horse sort of land icon, which is the icon you get for your party when you're moving around the land, and the sea icon, which is a little bit annoying. This is one of the other gripes I have with the game. Is Paradox has kind of a tendency with these games. I think the Viking mod, the DLC they had for Warband, came out really buggy. This seems to have the same sort of thing. The performance just isn't that good. You saw when I was coming in, the animation flitted back and forth, and it took a little bit too long to load as well. It just doesn't feel that well put together. It does mar the experience somewhat. Just some of the loading screens are a little bit too long. There's too many sort of flashing menu screens. You're just going to load into a screen, the menu screen will flash for a few seconds before you go in. It just doesn't feel that well put together, and it does over time when you go back and forth to a lot of towns to repair your ship or do trade or whatever. It just does mar the experience. It just doesn't feel that well put together. But there we are. So this is one of the town screens. This is just an example of the town. So you've got the alignment and the crown here, how affluent it is, and it gives you an idea of kind of what at the top here, so their stats and stuff are. So the main things you'll need to know for this are the merchant. Basically, you're going to start out with certain amounts of loot. You can then decide to buy them and sell them. So if I get my salted fish here, I can drag it to the left. That's how I can select how much I want to sell. And you see at the top, if I sell them all, which I'm going to do now, I get 3,091 gold. So that's what I've done. I can also back out of this screen if I want to. You can buy loot, and then you see you've got the buy price and sell price. Certain goods are going to be certain price at different areas. So if you want, you can avoid combat and make money by having a more cargo style ship that can hold more cargo. So buy a load of stuff, go to another town, and then hopefully sell it on for a profit. You can also get loot by capturing or destroying enemy ships. You can get the flotsam and jetsam, grab the loot if you destroy a ship or if you capture it, and then you can take it, put it on your hold, and then take it to a town to sell it. So that's another way of making money. So I'm just going to sell that, get a few quid. Mooring your ship. So this just shows you how sort of many ships. I've only got one ship to stand with, and you can just moor your ships here if you want. So basically, when you go into a town, you moor your ship. If you then go ashore, you then go around the land. If you want to go back out to sea, you have to go back to the same town at which you moored your ship. You can't just go on land at any point. You have to go at land via a cove or a city, moor your ship there, go into land. If you want to then leave to go back out to sea, you have to go back to where your ship's moored. You can't just go out at any point, which makes sense. Makes perfect sense. Your ship's there, got to go back to it. So that just shows you what your ships are like. There's your quest board. So you can hire some troops here. You can do various missions. So delivering letters just by kind of gives you the opportunity to explore a bit, kill outlaws, kill smugglers at sea, or fight for a certain faction. It just gives you some options of ways of making money and sort of doing content in the game. You also got some buildings you can click on, market. Again, anyone mount and blade, literally the exact same screen. This text is slightly different. Exact same screen. Arms merchant, again, same menu. You can buy various weapons. I haven't got a lot of money at the moment, so I won't. Armour, buy various kit to protect yourself. And you can buy horses as well. Head back. You'll need to go to the town hall if you want to set up. Basically, if you go there, you can set up a bank account. You can talk to the governor. He might give you a quest. You can sort of do some stuff for him. That's going to increase your affiliation with him, so he'll like you. You can also set up your bank account there. So basically, your troops' wages are paid out of the bank account. You'll have to go to a town, make sure there's enough money in there, and then I think it's every week, your troop wages are going to come out of your bank account. So there's a few things you can do there just with paperwork. Shipwright, you'll spend a lot of time here if you go into a lot of combats. Basically you can buy and sell ships, and as your ships take damage and use up ammunition as you go into combat, you're going to have to replace it. So this is just my starting ship, it just gives you the details there. So you can upgrade here, so I can pay 2,000 to upgrade my whole cleaning tools. So it's going to give me a bit less cargo hold, but I'm going to get better speed and manoeuvrability. So maybe this is probably a better combat thing, so I get less cargo space, but I get to have a bit more speed and manoeuvrability, which is going to help me out in combat. Gives you the details of all your ship. You can then decide to buy ships if you want. There's my upgrades. I can then hire more sailors. The game doesn't do a brilliant job of distinguishing between sort of crew and combat crew. So you saw I had the 15 guys, I had the 10 I think musketeers and 5 renegades. That was my combat crew. You can also hire sailors. Sailors are dirt cheap. Combat troops are much more expensive. They have 2 different rules. So for example, it says here crew 60 out of 60. You saw when I moused over my party, I didn't have crew. I had 15 guys, not 60. Basically, your crew is going to determine how many guys are actually non-combat troops are your sailors, which are going to be your crew, that are going to determine how quickly you can reload your cannons, how much sail you can use, how fast you can turn. It's basically just the effectiveness of your ship as you're moving around and sort of being in combat. And so the more crew you've got, the longer it's going to take for the enemy to try and kill all your crew before your ship is going to become useless. So the less crew you've got, the less effective your ships are going to become. However, if you get boarded or you board an enemy, the sailors don't take part in the combat. That's where the 15 guys that came in are going to come into effect. So the sailors, you get a lot more of them and they're dirt cheap to replace. However, they don't take any active part in combat. The game doesn't do a brilliant job of telling you this. It is fairly easy to work out, but it would be just a little prompt just to tell you, just to distinguish between sailors and your actual combat troops would be nice. Because initially it wasn't obvious and I had a few problems because I went over to board and realised, hang on, I thought I had 50 sailors wherever my guys got. I've only got a few going in. So you need to distinguish, just make it clear. Sailors in the form of crew, which you can get here, they're dirt cheap, are not the same as your combat troops. So basically you could have, if you've got very few combat troops and a massive crew, if you get boarded, your sailors are going to become useless. However, you're going to need to keep your sailor count high if you want your ship to be effective. So just sort of distinguish it there. So you can sell ships, buy ships, you can capture enemy ships, come sell them here, or you can add them to your fleet as well. And this just shows you your cannons, so you can tinker around with those. Can't add any more at the moment, I'm at maximum. So this gives you, and you basically have to replace your sailors if you lose them in combat. This is where you're going to spend a lot of time. Pretty self-explanatory, most of this stuff. It's all fairly intuitive. Is that also a tavern? You can go to the tavern, so you can stay in the garrison. Basically, if you want to garrison your troops for a bit, it's going to cost you a bit of money. Or you can go in the tavern, you can get some quests as well. You can see the guy in the corner. He gives you kind of few sort of escort or assassination sort of personal individual missions. They can be quite fun to do as well. So that's another way of making money. Going into the garrison. So it just gives you an idea of the town. So if I go ashore just to demonstrate what we're talking about. Once you go ashore, your sailors again don't do anything on land. So I'm down to my 16 guys. So if you want to land combat, you're down to your combat troops, which are my 10 and 5. If you get boarded or you board an enemy at sea, your sailors don't take part in that. They just become a regular sort of combat. They're not going to take part in that anyway. So let's get rid of that. So this is me here. You can see this ship icon on Santo Domingo. Is it Santo Domingo? I think I'm pronouncing that right. Apologies to anyone who thinks I'm pronouncing that wrong. I'm sure I am. I'm not much of a linguist. However, ship's icon's there. This is one of the islands. This kind of demonstrates what I was talking about. This is actually one of the larger islands in the context of the whole game. I've just docked here, so this is me moving around with my combat troops. And again, I just moved over it. It's automatically gone into the town, which I didn't really want to do, so I'm going to go ashore again. Again, it's just a bit... The game's just a bit buggy like that. It just gets on my nerves a bit. I've got no money in my bank account. Don't need to worry about that now. So that's me. I've got the tracking skill, which is going to show me my tracks from a party, or if another party's gone past on land, it's going to show me tracks of them. That's just what that is. You won't always have that. So I'm on land. This is just... There's very little on this, and again, for some reason, if you click on a land part, it's automatically going to try and drag you to any... I don't know why it does that. The game just detends you. If you just click on an open area of land, it's going to lock to the nearest sort of interactable thing. I don't know why it does that. There we are. The point I was trying to make before the game decided to interrupt me like that. Because I didn't click on that. I clicked over here, but it went to Salmon Bay for some reason. But anyway, it's taking me seconds to cross this entire island. As I'm saying, this is one of the larger islands on the map. There's obviously a big land area here, but the point of the matter is most of this land stuff is basically pointless. And obviously it's a sea game, I know that. However, it's just, I don't really see the point of having these tiny islands if there's nothing to do on them. Scale the map up. You can maybe you can actually have some combats on most of the island. You can actually do more things. You can interact with random parties, encounter more things, make it a bit more interesting. And then just make the sea area bigger as well. Just scale the whole thing up, make the map bigger, more to do everywhere. So you've got more ship combat, more land stuff as well. I don't see any reason. One of the biggest selling points with the Mount & Blade games was the land combat. It's going to be less of a focus here. However, there's no reason that they couldn't have bigger land combats and bigger sort of land areas to explore, as well as having a big ocean part as well. It just seems a bit weird. But anyway, so if I go back to Santo Domingo, again, little box there. I don't know why that's a glitch of some description. If I then put out to sea, which I can then do, I'm then back into ship mode. So say you're going to see enemies around, so it's currently night time. So there's a smuggler thing here, so they've got a large schooner, so you've just got the one ship. And the enemies here, they've got one snow, which is a different kind of ship, so they might have two ships you have to deal with, so you've got to keep an eye out for that. That's their combat troops, just got 8, but they are going to have a lot bigger crew than that, as have I. So that just gives you an idea of that. So I think that just gives you a broad overview of the map, and just kind of gives you a couple of my little gripes I've got about the game so far. So what I'm going to do now is, as I said, I'm only creating this character just to demonstrate that. I'm going to load my main save, which has my 2 ships, me and another guy. And I'm going to go into a sea combat just to show you what that's like with that. So I'm just going to have a quick pause and I'll cut one moment. Okay, so I've loaded up my main character. So I've got 2 ships in my fleet and I've got quite a few of them are wounded, but quite a few troops I can go into a good combat with. So what I found is I've got 2 ships. If I click on my party, so I've got my 2 ships here. So he's the captain of that one. That's my brig, which is my slightly smaller ship. And my other one now. I haven't quite got full crew on these guys, but I've got full ammo because I lost a few sailors in one of my other fights. But I should have 50 and 47 respectively. Should be enough for at least a minor combat. I wouldn't go into a huge combat with it, but we should be okay for now. And I can swap sailors between ships if I want, because I'm not currently in combat. You can see my party. Got a few more sort of veteran guys. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go into combat. Just to show you that. So there's a smuggler ship here. Got a bit smaller party than mine. 2 ships. But I reckon I should have these guys. So I'm just going to click. I'm going to fire then. And I've got the option of engaging, which is what I'm going to do. So this is the ship-to-ship combat screen. So I can hold right click to turn the camera around. So that's my other friendly ship. So I've got the options here. So I've got WS and D. So if you just go left and right. And you've got to make sure that's going to turn you left. You've got to make sure when you fire a broadside, which is when you fire your cannons, you've got to make sure they're pointing right at the enemy. So I can adjust my speed here. And I can tell my guys, I've only got 2 ships, but I can tell them the formation, so I'm currently in line. So he's going to stay behind me in a line formation. So I can select the ship I want to fire at. I'm currently got Grape Shot equipped, which is going to do more crew damage. You've got Chain Shot, which does more sail damage. And you've also got Regular Shot, which just kind of doesn't do any particular damage to any particular area of the ship. So you can try and kill the crew, kill the sails, or just blow a hole in the side of it, essentially. So my guys follow from behind. So I've currently got Grape Shot. I'm going to let that fully reload. Try and kill some of his crew. I'm actually going to switch out to Regular Shot, which is my favourite, so you can change ammunition types, although you are going to have to reload. So he's got a really small ship and a slightly bigger one, so I've hit him a little bit there, so I've killed a few of his crew and done a little bit of damage to him. That's him firing back. Switch to the other one. Slow down slightly, don't really have much reason to go too fast. So as far as I'm aware, I haven't, to be fair, there could be a slight difference. However, every ship combat I've had, I think, always has this just open area water map. I'm not aware of any, or I've certainly never been in any combat that have had any sort of little islands or land pieces in between that you can move around. It does seem to always be an open sea area bit. It's not an objective complaint, however, just kind of lets you know you will always be fighting in this sort of area. Try and line that up. That wasn't too bad, I got a little bit of a hit. Taking most of his crew out. So what I'm going to do, just to show you it's a good example of showing off the ship-to-ship combat. I'm going to probably sink one of these ships and then sort of take its flotsam, and I'm going to go into combat with one which shows you the combat and just shows you what I think most people want to know what it's like, is the ship-to-ship combat. So he's only got 13 crew left. So I think if I blow him up a bit more, shoot him a few more times. I'll then go in for the kill. He's lost some of his sailors, so he's going to be reloading slower than me. So you see my starboard cannons here, just reloaded. He's down to 9 crew, so I think if I fire one more broadside into him, I'll then go in for the kill, hit my speed up, and now I'm going to board him. And that allows me, keeping the ship alive, allows me to either then add it to my fleet and assign a captain to it, or I can just scuttle it and you can get a few more resources out of it just by not completely destroying it. So, didn't actually kill any crew there, but there we are. I'm going to start chasing him. Oh, actually, let's hit him one more time. No, actually went for that other ship. I've found that can be a bit irritating. Occasionally, it's a bit of a palaver making sure you've selected the right ship, but there we are. I think, to be fair, I think I had it the wrong time that time. So this is the one. I should have selected this one. It should aim for them this time. Just make sure. There we go, got the right one selected that time. I think that, to be fair, that was user error on my part. Accidentally clicked on the other one. Just got to be make sure you don't click on the wrong ship. I've done that before. There we go. It's not always perfect, the selections. You just got to be careful you don't select the wrong ship. I think I've hit him one more time. No, it's still down to 9 crew. I'm border waiting. And my mate's hit him, so it's just going for him. He's nearly out of hull. I'll fire a broadside on these guys as I go past. Yeah, let's board these lads here. So hold it down, and it's going to attempt a boarding. So I'm now in the boarding screen. So that's let's just go right down the middle. So I've got 21 to their 11. And they shows you kind of the melee combat screen. Takes a second to load in. Again, a little bit glitchy. And just shot shot the guy in the back of the head, obviously. That one's on me. That should be fine, I've got enough troops. So, again, combat. As far as I'm aware, no practical changes to the combat system. Right click to block if someone swings at you. And click in a certain direction to swing. I've had a lot more guys, so it shouldn't be too difficult. You can click on these things to climb up to different areas. So the crow's nest. Just check this is clear. Again, this guy. So this is the thing. Just this guy's ragdoll's messed up a bit, and this guy doesn't seem to want to attack me. So I'm just going to hit him over the head. And my crew didn't want to seem to climb up to actually help me there. So combat is still a little bit annoying, and then it's just you don't climb back down. Apparently, you don't need to. You can just teleport. So. That's the combat. Again, this is the thing. Let me just... let's go back to... I'll finish the fight, then I'll kind of give my explanation of that. So that's just an idea of what a smaller ship-to-ship fight has. So they do get a bit bigger than that. Although, as far as I'm aware, you can't get any sort of multi-ship battles. So you can take a bit of loot. I'm not going to take anything here just because it's not really worth doing. And I can take a bit of their kit. So we've got some jewellery off from there, which is nice. That's worth quite a few bob. And the cotton. So you're not obliged to take this. You can just leave it and scuttle it if you want. Now, because I've captured the ship, I lost a few sailors. So I can add it to my fleet, make it my flagship, which is going to add it to my sheep, replace one of my ships with it, or I can scuttle it. I'm just going to scuttle it just to get the loot out of it. So I've done that. And I've picked up any other sort of loot they've dropped. I think this is the enemy here. Must be. Enemy there. Maybe they're out of range. I think I'm too close, maybe. Seems weird, but there we are. So this time I'm just going to blow him up, and then we're going to pick up what's left at the end. So you've got the option of sort of bordering and then trying to capture, and then scuttle the ship, or keep it for your own, or you can just blow them apart if you want to keep your distance. So you can go for a sort of high sailors, so you get more cannons, and then sort of low troop approach. Or you can go for maybe just or you can maybe go for more of a boarding thing. So my colleague there has helped me blow it up. They're going for the capture. So I could just end the battle. I've won the battle, I've killed all the enemy ships, but I'm just going to go over here, pick up any loot they've got lying around, so I can just sell that on. Fish hemp. It's the hemp. I don't think that's grammatically correct, but there we are. So that's my other ship, taking a bit of a crew and hull damage there, so I'm going to have to go repair those. So I won the battle. And that's that battle there. It just kind of feels... This is probably the biggest issue with the game. This obviously it's based on a... That's going to be the majority of time if you're doing... When you're in a combat game based like this, it's the majority of the time you're going to be fighting ships. You're going to be fighting either in boarding actions, melee combat. If you're fighting on land, you'll have sort of land battles. Where you'll just have obviously what you just saw there, but that will just be on a large sort of battlefield type map with sort of slightly smaller parties than the actual Mount and Blade game. But it just, the whole game just seems to feel of is that it? It's like that that sort of ship combat just seemed a bit. You sort of manoeuvre slightly around. You can change your speed a bit. You change your ammo types. You can have, say, you can do sort of sail damage to kill their sails, so they're slowed down. You can kill their crew, or you can just blow a hole in the hull and sink it. It just feels so much of just, is this it? Is that the most fundamental part of the game? Is the ship combat? That just seems like, is that it? And also the combat, the ship-to-ship combat you saw there, it's glitchy. You saw that guy was standing there on the crow's nest. He just wouldn't even look at me or attack me. When you've got big parties, again, on a small area like 2 ships, you go to each other's ships, you've got a boarding plank in the middle, as you saw, 2 groups, and that was 2 small groups of troops going across each other. It's just a clusterfuck, if you'll pardon my French. What made Mount and Blade so compelling and so interesting on a land-based, on a sort of medieval map sort of thing, or even just a mod, just was the big battles, the big open areas of land you can explore, all the different types of troops, the variety of troops you meet, and the sort of variety of battle you have. You've got cavalry troops, archers, some mods had firearms, some mods even had magic, but the fact is you've got big battles in big areas, big variety of terrains. You can have mountainous terrain, you can make use of it, you can do cavalry attacks, you can make formations in battle. That was the selling point. You lose that in the ship-to-ship battles because they're just a mess. You shove 2 big parties together, you can't command them properly, and they just swing at each other until one party, normally the bigger party generally, or just the better equipped party, is just going to beat out the other one. That's about it. And again, the ship-to-ship combat, when I was shooting cannons and stuff, it just feels there's so little input in it. It just feels like there's so little you can do in the ship-to-ship combat. I'm manoeuvring my ship around. I'm just making sure they're in my broadside. I've got the ammo selected I want. I can do a couple of things, say use chain shot, kill the sails, then just sort of speed away, turn around, shoot, speed away, turn around, shoot. There's a couple of different things you can use, but you're just in a big square sea area, and you're just pinging from a distance until one side is unlucky enough to lose. And it just seems you've lost the key aspect of what made the original Mount and Blade game so compelling, which was the big land battles. That's what made it, and you lose that because the ship-to-ship combat is when you actually board and get into a close quarters combat. The area is too small. It's just a clusterfuck, and the actual shooting mechanics against moving around broadsiding, as I showed you that before I boarded, they're just a bit lackluster. There's so little to it. There's just no depth to the thing of the game. It's just there's so little to it. I feel it's a bit of a nitpick. I really wanted to like this game. A lot of people there seems to be a curse with pirate games. No one seems to be able to make a good pirate game. I was hoping there would be something in this. I love the Mount and Blade series. I've had them all. Mount and Blade 2 is coming out this year. I'll definitely be picking it up. But you've just lost the core of what made Mount and Blade great. I feel in Caribbean. It just seems that it's just a bit lackluster. The ship-to-ship fights aren't that fun. And put that on top of the fact that the land areas on the islands I think are too small. There's so little you can do on them. You are limited in the design of the game. They've got to sea stuff, but the sea stuff isn't that interesting. I could forgive the fact that the land stuff and even the boarding combats aren't that interesting if the ship-to-ship stuff was a bit more compelling. And then put on top of that, the game is just too glitchy. It's too finicky. Just moving around on the land, you'll click somewhere, then it'll try and go to a town for some reason, and then it'll take ages to load. It just seems, it's a shame, but it's not that well put together. And I don't even think it's that well designed. So I'd have to say, if you've got Mount and Blade or Warband, don't bother paying separately to pick this up. Just play the native. Look at some of the mods. A lot of the mods have firearms kind of set. There's some Napoleonic mods. There's some sort of Renaissance era with more basic firearms. There's a myriad of mods you could choose from to suit whatever sort of style of game you want to play. Some of them even have magic in them. Some of these mods, they're amazing. Some of them are set in fantasy universes. But there's no point if you've got Mount and Blade paying for Caribbean. If you don't have Mount and Blade, it's been on sale a dozen times. Wait for a Steam sale. If you like the look of maybe the combat, but you think it'd be better if you had sort of big battles on land and stuff, go pick up Warband. Warband's as good as it's always been. Graphically, it's not brilliant. Neither is this. But Warband's got what this lacks. If you haven't got Warband, wait for a Steam sale. Pick up Mount and Blade Warband. But if you don't, and even if you do have Warband, don't bother splashing out for this. Get one of the mods if you want to mix up your Mount and Blade experience. Other than that, I honestly, it sounds a bit harsh, but I really don't see the appeal of this. It just failed to draw me in. The combat, which is the key selling point in the Mount and Blade franchise, I would say, it's really just, it's lost its edge. It's lost what made it fundamentally a really fun game. So, bit of a cynical one, I'm afraid. I'd have to recommend, don't pick this up. It's not worth the money. If you've got Mount and Blade, stick with that, get a mod. If you don't have Mount and Blade, pick up Warband. It'll probably be on sale soon because Mount and Blade 2 is coming out this year, so I imagine Warband will be on sale on Steam. Pick up Warband. It'll only be down to a few quid. It's only 15 quid as standard. There's a myriad of mods. Go on the Tellwords forums, pick up one of the cool mods, but definitely, I would just say, unfortunately, as much as I was hoping this would be a good game, I'm just not finding it fun. So I'd have to say, don't bother picking it up. So, unfortunately, I can't recommend the game, but thank you very much, guys, for watching. Hopefully, I clarified everything you need to know. If you've got any questions, please do let me know. Any sort of criticism or critique, please let me know in the comments. I can reply to most of it. If you enjoyed the video, like or subscribe. It really helps me out. Other than that, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.